Picture a granite pebble, small enough to fit in your palm. On its surface, two tiny indentations above a larger one, arranged like a face staring back at you. Between those eyes, a single red dot. Deliberate. Placed there by fingers that pressed into wet ochre 43,000 years ago, and left behind a fingerprint. That fingerprint belonged to a Neanderthal, and what it tells us might change everything we thought we knew about what makes humans human. For generations, we told ourselves a story. Modern humans were special, the only species capable of art, of abstraction, of seeing meaning where none existed. Neanderthals. They were the brutes, the dead end, the ones who couldn't compete with our clever ancestors. At least, that's what we assumed. But in May 2025, a team of archaeologists in Spain announced something that made us reconsider. A painted stone, a fingerprint, and a red dot placed exactly where it didn't belong. Let's go back to the San Lázaro rock shelter near the city of Segovia in central Spain. It's a site archaeologists have been excavating for years. The shelter sits in a limestone landscape carved by time and weather. Neanderthals lived here, on and off, for thousands of years. They left behind tools, bones, and traces of fire. Among those traces, archaeologists found something unusual. A small granite cobblestone not native to the area. Someone had carried it here deliberately. But it wasn't just out of place. It was marked, stained with red ochre, an iron-rich pigment that Neanderthals and early humans used for, well, that's the question, isn't it? Ochre shows up at Neanderthal sites across Europe. Some researchers think it was functional, used as an adhesive, a sunscreen, or an insect repellent. Others believe it was symbolic, decorative. The Neanderthals painted themselves, their tools, their world, not for practical reasons, but because it meant something. The stone from San Lázaro offered a new clue. Because this wasn't just ochre smeared randomly, the placement was specific, almost intentional. The stone itself is remarkable. Two small symmetrical indentations sit above a central larger one, naturally forming a pattern that looks unmistakably like a face. And precisely between those two eye-like indentations, a single dot of red ochre, placed where a nose would be. Or perhaps a third eye. Researchers used multispectral imaging to analyze the ochre application, and hidden within that red dot, they found something no one expected. Fingerprint ridges. Not a smudge, not an accidental transfer. A fingerprint pressed directly into wet pigment as someone Neanderthal applied the ochre to the stone. This makes it the oldest fingerprint ever discovered, 43,000 years old, and it belonged to someone we've been underestimating for a very long time. Analysis of the fingerprint's characteristics, the ridge patterns, the spacing, suggests the maker was most likely an adult male, a Neanderthal man painting a pebble in a Spanish cave. But here's where it gets interesting, because the study's authors didn't just document the fingerprint. They wanted to know, was this placement intentional? Could a random ochre application just happen to land between those face-like indentations? They ran Monte Carlo simulations, thousands of randomized placements. The result? The probability that the red dot's precise alignment occurred by chance was only 0.31%. Less than 1 in 300. The researchers concluded that whoever made this marking saw the face in the stone, recognized the pattern, and chose to enhance it, to create something. Now this might sound like a lot of interpretation layered onto a single stone. And I want to be honest with you, not everyone is convinced. Some researchers argue that ochre could have been applied for practical purposes we don't understand, that statistics can be made to support any narrative we want to tell. But here's what's harder to dismiss. This isn't an isolated find. This stone exists within a pattern, a growing body of evidence that Neanderthals weren't what we assumed. In Spain alone, Neanderthal cave paintings have been dated to over 65,000 years ago. Red hand stencils, geometric shapes, abstract marks that serve no obvious practical purpose. Eagle talons have been found strung together as jewelry. Shells collected from coastlines miles away, pierced and painted. Feathers gathered and arranged. Neanderthals buried their dead, sometimes with grave goods. They cared for injured group members who couldn't contribute. They had culture. And here's the detail that really challenges our assumptions. The cognitive trait the stone demonstrates, recognizing faces in random patterns, has a name: pareidolia. You've experienced it. Seeing faces in clouds. in electrical outlets, in the front grille of a car that looks angry or surprised. It's automatic, unconscious, deeply human. Scientists used to assume pareidolia was unique to Homo sapiens, a quirk of our oversized, pattern-hungry brains, part of what made us special. If the interpretation of this stone is correct, Neanderthals experienced pareidolia too. They saw faces where none existed and responded to what they saw. Think about what that implies. A Neanderthal picked up this stone, noticed the face pattern, and thought, I should add something here. I should make this more. That's not tool making. It's not survival. It's art. Or something close to it, an impulse to create meaning where none was required. The study was published on May 24, 2025 in the journal Archaeological and Anthropological Sciences, and it's reignited a debate that's been simmering for decades. What made us, Homo sapiens, survive while Neanderthals went extinct around 40,000 years ago? We've always assumed it was our superior minds, our capacity for abstraction. But if Neanderthals could create symbolic art, if they saw faces in stones and felt compelled to respond, what exactly separated us from them? That's a question we don't have a clean answer to. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the line between us was never as clear as we wanted it to be. After all, and here's something worth sitting with, most non-African humans carry between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA. Their genes are in us. Literally. Neanderthals didn't just disappear. They merged with us, interbred. Their legacy, their actual genetic code, lives on in billions of people walking around today. When you see a face in a cloud, that instant, unconscious recognition, you might be experiencing something your Neanderthal ancestors experienced 43,000 years ago. The same cognitive wiring, the same impulse to find pattern, the same whisper urge to create meaning out of nothing. So what do we take from this? First, consider visiting a natural history museum with fresh eyes. Those Neanderthal reconstructions you've walked past might represent minds closer to ours than we knew. If you're curious about the genetic connection, commercial DNA tests can show your Neanderthal ancestry percentage. Many people find it's higher than they expected. And here's something to try. Pay attention the next time you see a face in something. A rock, a building, a piece of toast. That moment of recognition, it's ancient. You're experiencing a cognitive trait that stretches back tens of thousands of years, shared with cousins we never fully understood, until maybe now. The research also reminds us how scientific narratives change. What we knew about Neanderthals a generation ago turned out to be wrong. That should make us humble about what we think we know today. If stories like this one resonate with you, hit subscribe. We explore these kinds of moments where a single artifact rewrites our understanding every week on this channel. But let's come back to that moment, 43,000 years ago. A Neanderthal in a Spanish rock shelter holding a small stone. He notices the face, the two eye-like marks, the mouth below. Something in his mind says, that looks like someone, that looks like us. He dips his finger into red ochre, wet and gritty against his skin, and he presses it to the stone right between those eyes, leaving something of himself behind. A mark, a creation, a fingerprint that would survive 43,000 years of ice ages, erosion, and forgetting, to tell us something we weren't ready to hear. The study's authors are careful in their conclusions. They use words like suggests and indicates. Good science is cautious, but the implication is clear. Neanderthals were capable of seeing meaning in the world around them, of responding to it creatively, of doing something that, for all practical purposes, we might call art. That challenges us. It challenges the story we tell about ourselves, that we're special, unique, the only minds in evolutionary history capable of transcending mere survival. Maybe that story was always too simple. Maybe cognition, creativity, consciousness, these things emerged gradually in fits and starts across multiple human species. And maybe the Neanderthals, our close cousins, our collaborators, our literal ancestors in many cases, deserve more credit than history has given them. 43,000 years ago, a Neanderthal held a small stone and saw a face looking back at him. He chose to respond, to create, to leave a mark. And across all those millennia, across ice ages and extinctions and the rise of civilizations, that fingerprint survived, waiting for someone to notice. waiting to tell us that perhaps we weren't as alone as we thought, that the story of human creativity didn't start with us. I'm History That Hits. Thanks for listening. And the next time you see a face in the clouds, remember, you're not the first.